Meghan was reportedly left reeling as King Charles III took decisive action, cutting her final financial ties with the British monarchy. Sources quoted by royal watchers suggested that the King's decision came suddenly and without warning, leaving the former Duchess of Sussex in a state of shock. According to reports, the move was seen as part of a broader restructuring aimed at reducing costs and streamlining the royal finances. However, for Meghan, it felt like an abrupt end to her ties with the institution she once called home. Critics argue that this action could be seen as a final blow in the fallout from the Sussexes' decision to step back from their royal duties. Supporters of the King's stance would say that this was necessary to maintain the financial health and stability of the monarchy, while also respecting the public trust. However, supporters of Meghan and Harry might argue that such drastic measures were unnecessary and could be seen as a punitive move. In this volatile climate, it remains to be seen how Meghan will navigate her new status outside the royal fold. Will she find ways to maintain her philanthropic efforts and continue advocating for causes close to her heart? Or will this sudden severance from her financial ties force her into a more challenging position? You decide. Was King Charles's decision to cut Meghan's final financial ties a necessary step in maintaining the monarchy, or did it come too late and too harshly? As the dust settles on yet another chapter in the saga of the Sussexes, whispers are circulating about a dramatic turn of events that has left Meghan Markle reeling. Reports suggest that King Charles III has cut her final financial ties to the monarchy, effectively severing any remaining financial support she might have had. This move comes after months of speculation and tension, with critics arguing that it's a clear sign of the royal family drawing a firm line in the sand. Supporters of Meghan would say this is an inevitable step, given the ongoing scrutiny surrounding her past business ventures and alleged mismanagement of funds. They claim that such measures are necessary to ensure the financial stability and integrity of the monarchy as a whole. However, others argue that this sudden cut-off could be seen as harsh and unfeeling, coming just months after the royal family was forced to issue statements addressing the Sussexes' business ventures. Meghan's reaction has been one of shock and disbelief. Sources quoted by the tabloids suggest she is grappling with the reality that her financial safety net within the monarchy has now been completely removed. This development adds yet another layer of complexity to an already fraught situation, leaving many to wonder what the future holds for Meghan in her new life away from the palace. As we navigate through these turbulent times, you decide, what does this mean for Meghan's future? Is it a necessary step towards financial independence and stability, or is it a sign of a deeper rift between the royal family and its former members? If you're as intrigued by these developments as I am, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any updates. Join us on this journey through the ever-evolving story of the Sussexes. The financial ties that bound Meghan and Harry to the British royal family were multifaceted and complex. According to royal watchers and reports suggesting insider knowledge, these ties encompassed a range of benefits, from official expenses paid for by the Crown to personal income generated through their roles as working royals. Critics argue that these financial arrangements created an uneven playing field, with other members of the family enjoying similar perks without the same level of public scrutiny. Supporters would say that such ties were necessary to maintain the royal family's operational efficiency and to support the Sussexes in carrying out their duties. Reports suggest that Meghan and Harry's final financial ties to the monarchy were cut after they stepped back from their official roles, a move that was seen as part of their broader decision to distance themselves from the public eye. This included any stipends or allowances typically provided to working royals for travel, staff, and other operational costs. Sources quoted by the tabloids claim that these financial arrangements were scrutinized closely by both royal advisers and the Sussexes themselves, leading to discussions about how best to manage their transition away from official duties. The decision to sever these ties was seen as a significant step in their desire for more privacy and independence, but it also raised questions among those who believed such changes should have been made earlier. In summary, the financial ties that Meghan and Harry had with the monarchy were integral to their roles and provided a range of benefits. However, The decision to cut these ties was part of a broader strategy aimed at reshaping their lives in California, away from the intense scrutiny of the British media and public. Reports suggest that King Charles III's decision to cut Meghan Markle's final financial ties with the monarchy comes as part of a broader restructuring of royal finances and a desire to ensure a more sustainable future for the institution. Critics argue that this move is long overdue, pointing out that Meghan has been a lightning rod for controversy and financial scrutiny since her departure from London. Sources quoted by the tabloids claim that the king sees this as an opportunity to draw a firm financial line in the sand, emphasizing his commitment to fiscal responsibility and accountability within the royal family. Some supporters would say that it's about maintaining the integrity of the monarchy, while others argue that such actions could alienate Meghan and further damage her relationship with the British public. The decision is said to be part of a larger effort by King Charles to streamline royal finances and reduce the financial burden on taxpayers. According to royal watchers, this move also aims to set clearer boundaries for future members of the royal family, ensuring that they understand their roles and responsibilities from the outset. Supporters argue that cutting Meghan's financial ties is necessary to demonstrate transparency and accountability, especially given her high-profile status and past controversies. They claim that this step will help to restore public trust in the monarchy by showing a commitment to fiscal discipline and reducing the perception of impropriety or nepotism. On the other hand, critics argue that such moves are unnecessary and could be seen as punitive towards Meghan. Some point out that she has already made significant personal sacrifices for her family and that this decision may come across as vindictive rather than constructive. Others suggest that it might alienate supporters who see Meghan's actions as positive steps towards modernizing the monarchy. Regardless of the motivations, one thing is clear: King Charles III is sending a strong message about his vision for the future of the monarchy. Critics argue that this move could have far-reaching consequences for Meghan and her family, potentially affecting their standing in the royal circle and public perception. You decide whether such measures are necessary or if they might do more harm than good in the long run. The financial knife has cut deep for Meghan Markle. Reports suggest that King Charles III has finalized the severance of all financial ties between her and the Crown, a move that marks a significant departure from previous arrangements. Critics argue that this step underscores the royal family's commitment to maintaining financial independence and integrity. Supporters, on the other hand, claim that the decision is merely pragmatic, aimed at ensuring the stability and transparency of the monarchy's finances. They point out that while Meghan was granted substantial financial support during her time as a working member of the royal family, the severance now ensures that future members will adhere to more stringent financial guidelines. The symbolic ties, however, remained intact for some time after the Sussexes stepped back from their official duties. Critics argue that this contrast between tangible and intangible commitments has fueled speculation about the true nature of the royal family's relationship with Meghan and Harry. They suggest that while the Crown may have retained a degree of formality, the financial ties were the last strings holding her to the monarchy. You decide: was King Charles III's decision purely practical, or did it signal a deeper shift in his approach to the role of modern royals? As reports continue to circulate and royal watchers deliberate, one thing is certain: the financial severance represents a finality that cannot be undone. Stay with me, because the next part is the one everyone is talking about. Reports suggest that Meghan Markle was blindsided by King Charles III's decision to sever all final financial ties between her and the monarchy. The move has sent shockwaves through royal watchers and critics alike. Sources quoted by the tabloids claim that Meghan was caught off guard, visibly upset during a meeting with senior royals. She looked devastated, one insider told us, adding that it was clear she had not seen this coming. Her supporters argue that this decision underscores the extent to which the monarchy is distancing itself from those who have left its fold. On the other hand, commentators claim that cutting off financial support signals a broader shift in the monarchy's approach to maintaining its independence and reducing costs. The royal family needs to manage their finances more efficiently, one royal analyst opined. Meghan's case might be seen as an example of how they are handling those changes. For Meghan, losing this final lifeline could mean significant financial challenges. Critics argue that it's another step in the process of her becoming fully independent, a move she and her husband have been advocating for some time. However, supporters counter that such measures are necessary to maintain the integrity of the institution. In the end, you decide, does King Charles III's decision reflect a fair and necessary adjustment or an unwelcoming severance? The debate continues as we wait to see how Meghan will navigate this new chapter in her life. As the dust settles on Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's tumultuous exit from royal duties, one question continues to dominate headlines: why did King Charles III cut off their final financial ties? The Sussexes have long maintained a stance of financial independence, but reports suggest this claim is increasingly seen as disingenuous by many commentators. According to royal watchers, the couple's continued reliance on the monarchy for financial support has been a point of contention. The Sussexes have made it clear they want to be self-sufficient, one insider noted, but the reality is that they've benefited significantly from their royal roles. Critics argue that by continuing to live in California and not contributing financially to the royal family, Harry and Meghan are exploiting their position without fully embracing their new status as private citizens. Supporters of the couple might counter with the argument that their financial ties were already being reduced. They've been taking steps towards independence, one defender stated, but it's a gradual process. However, commentators claim these steps have been too slow and insufficient to justify maintaining the level of support they received. The debate centers on whether the royal family has a duty to provide for their former members or if those individuals should fully transition into private life. According to sources quoted by the tabloids, King Charles III's decision to sever all financial ties may have been driven by the couple's continued public statements and actions that suggest they still expect preferential treatment. In the end, it comes down to a matter of perspective. Supporters argue that the Sussexes are simply navigating their new lives with dignity, while critics see this as an ongoing attempt to maintain a privileged position. You decide, do the Sussexes deserve continued financial support from the monarchy, or is it time for them to fully embrace their private status? Amidst the ongoing saga surrounding the Sussexes, one cannot ignore the pivotal role played by Prince Harry. Since stepping away from his royal duties in 2020, Harry has been navigating a complex landscape of personal finances and security concerns. Reports suggest that Harry's decision to forego his royal pension and other financial benefits was a strategic move to ensure his family's future independence. This step came as part of an effort to distance himself from the pressures and constraints of royal life while still maintaining some connection to his heritage. Meanwhile, Harry has been engaged in an ongoing battle with UK security forces over his need for protection. Commentators claim that the Metropolitan Police have been reluctant to provide the same level of security for Harry and Meghan as they do for other senior royals. This has led to a contentious situation where Harry argues that his family's safety is compromised, while royal watchers suggest that such concerns are exaggerated. Supporters of Harry and Meghan argue that these actions by King Charles III represent a betrayal, suggesting that the monarch was aware of their security issues but chose not to address them adequately. Critics, on the other hand, claim that cutting financial ties is a necessary step in maintaining the integrity and stability of the monarchy. In this climate, Meghan has found herself blindsided by these developments. Her public statements and interviews have often focused on the challenges she faces as a former royal, but the sudden severance of her financial support comes as a shock to many who had hoped for a smoother transition. As we continue to follow the unfolding drama, you decide, is King Charles III's decision a bold move to streamline royal finances or an unwelcome snub to Harry and Meghan? The debate rages on. Meghan was blindsided by a significant development in her life as a member of the British royal family. Reports suggest that King Charles III has cut off her final financial ties to the monarchy, leaving many commentators divided on whether this move is punishment or simply part of standard royal accounting. Some critics argue that this decision could be seen as an attempt to send a message to Meghan and her husband, Harry. They point out that the couple has faced increasing scrutiny over their association with dubious business ventures and alleged financial irregularities. According to royal watchers, Charles might have decided to sever ties to protect the integrity of the institution. Others counter by suggesting that this is merely standard practice in royal finances. Supporters would say that cutting off Meghan's final financial support is a necessary step to maintain transparency and accountability within the monarchy. They argue that it's simply part of ensuring that all members adhere to the same rules, regardless of their personal circumstances or public profile. You decide, is this move by King Charles III an act of punishment for past missteps, or just good governance? The debate rages on among royal watchers and critics alike. As the situation unfolds, one thing is clear: Meghan's financial ties to the monarchy are now severed, leaving her in a new, uncertain position. And that is not even the part that has the commentary world in a frenzy. Reports suggest that the decision to sever Meghan Markle's financial ties with the monarchy was not just a matter of cost-cutting but also deeply rooted in security concerns. According to royal watchers, Harry's protection costs have been a significant burden on the crown since his marriage to Meghan. Critics argue that Meghan and Harry's lifestyle, particularly their lavish spending habits and penchant for high-profile events, had raised eyebrows among those who oversee the security of the monarchy. Sources quoted by the tabloids claim that there were growing concerns about the financial strain these expenses placed on the royal budget, especially given the security risks associated with Meghan's public profile. Supporters of the royal family might counter that Harry and Meghan's personal finances are separate from their official duties, and that the Crown has always been willing to support its members. However, it is clear that the balance between protecting the monarchy and managing its financial responsibilities has become increasingly delicate in recent years. The decision to cut off Meghan's financial ties may have been a way for King Charles III to address both issues simultaneously, reducing costs while maintaining a semblance of family unity. Critics might argue that this move was overly harsh, particularly given the royal watchers' reports that Harry's protection alone costs millions of pounds annually. In the midst of these debates, supporters of the Crown would say that such measures are necessary to ensure the long-term stability and security of the monarchy. Meanwhile, detractors might claim that it is a sign of declining relevance in an era where public scrutiny has never been higher. You decide, was this move a pragmatic necessity or an unnecessary blow to the family's unity? The royal community was left reeling as reports suggested King Charles III cut Meghan Markle's final financial ties to the monarchy. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the British public, sources quoted by the tabloids claim the decision came without warning, leaving Meghan blindsided. Polls conducted across the country indicate a mixed reaction from the populace. According to one major survey, 41% of Britons believe this action is justified, citing concerns over financial integrity and transparency within the royal family. "The monarchy cannot afford any more scandals," remarked one supporter quoted in the Daily Mail. However, critics argue that such a move is unnecessary and damaging to Meghan's image and public perception. She has already made significant sacrifices for the crown, countered a vocal group of supporters on social media platforms like Twitter and Instagram. Cutting off her financial support now seems harsh. Commentators claim that this decision reflects a broader shift in royal policy, aimed at reducing costs and streamlining operations. It's a calculated move to send a message about fiscal responsibility, suggested royal analyst Sarah Brown in The Guardian. But it also risks alienating Meghan further from the public she once represented so well. As the dust settles, the debate rages on. You decide, was this a necessary step for the monarchy, or does it mark a new low in its relationship with one of its most prominent former members? As reports suggest, the decision to sever all financial ties between Meghan Markle and her royal family has far-reaching implications for her personal brand and commercial opportunities in Montecito. Critics argue that this move could have a significant impact on the Sussexes' financial stability. According to royal watchers, the financial cutoff might force Meghan and her husband to rely more heavily on their own resources or seek alternative income streams. Supporters of the monarchy, however, claim that such measures are necessary to maintain the integrity and independence of the crown. They suggest that by cutting off royal subsidies, the family can focus on building a sustainable business model for their future endeavors. According to sources quoted by the tabloids, the move could also pave the way for new partnerships and collaborations outside the traditional royal network. In the meantime, observers are closely watching how Meghan will navigate her financial situation in California. Critics speculate that she might face challenges in maintaining her high-profile lifestyle without direct royal support. However, supporters argue that with her considerable fame and established brand, Meghan has the potential to thrive on her own merits. You decide, is this a necessary step for the future of the monarchy, or an unwarranted blow to a respected member of the royal family? The debate continues as we await further developments in the Sussexes' financial and public lives. As we delve into the latest twist in the royal saga, it's crucial to examine the counter-arguments that have emerged from those defending Meghan and Harry. Critics argue that the Sussexes were seeking financial independence and a life free of public scrutiny long before their official departure from royal duties. According to royal watchers, many point out that Meghan and Harry had been vocal about wanting a more private existence, away from the pressures of palace life. Sources quoted by the tabloids suggest that the couple had already begun planning for a future outside the royal fold even as they were still in their roles. Critics would say, they never sought to remain financially dependent on the crown while pursuing personal freedom. Supporters argue that the decision to sever financial ties was a necessary step towards genuine independence. They point out that Harry and Meghan had already expressed a desire for a more autonomous life, free from the constraints of royal protocol. You decide, they might say, whether the couple's actions were driven by a legitimate pursuit of personal freedom or if their motives are as complex as ever. Moreover, those who sympathize with the Sussexes claim that the suddenness of the financial cutoff has raised questions about its fairness and legality. Reports suggest that there have been concerns among legal experts regarding whether such a drastic action could be taken without proper consultation and transparency. In this ongoing debate, it's clear that while the monarchy continues to assert control over its finances and public image, critics of Harry and Meghan's treatment argue for a more nuanced understanding of their motivations. Cynics might say, the royal family has always been seen as a tight-knit unit, but now questions about loyalty and independence are at the forefront. As we navigate these complex arguments, it's important to remember that both sides present valid points. The situation remains fluid, with more developments likely on the horizon. Before we go on, drop a comment with your verdict. I read every one. Reports suggest that King Charles III's decision to sever Meghan Markle's final financial ties with the British monarchy marks a significant shift in his approach. Critics argue that this move signals an end to years of patience and a firm stance on royal protocol and responsibilities. Supporters, however, might see it as a necessary step to maintain the integrity and fiscal stability of the crown. According to royal watchers, Charles has long been concerned about the financial implications of maintaining the Sussexes' ties to the monarchy. The cut-off of funds, while shocking for Meghan, could be viewed by supporters as a way to ensure the royal family's resources are allocated more efficiently. Critics, on the other hand, might claim that it represents a betrayal and an overreach in asserting control. You decide, is this move a prudent step towards fiscal responsibility or a harsh and unnecessary action? The debate rages on, with many questioning whether Charles has finally hardened his stance after years of allowing the Sussexes to maintain some financial benefits. Reports suggest that following King Charles III's decision to sever Meghan Markle's final financial ties with the monarchy, many are questioning whether there is now a complete severance of all financial connections between her and the crown. Critics argue that this move was designed to ensure a clean break, making it extremely unlikely for any form of financial support or ties to be reinstated. However, supporters of Meghan claim that while the financial thread may appear cut, there could still be ways back into the fold, albeit through alternative means. They point out that the royal family has shown willingness to adapt and evolve their relationships with former members in the past. Critics counter that such a change would require significant political will and could be seen as a betrayal of the values of transparency and financial responsibility championed by King Charles. Sources quoted by tabloids have speculated on potential backdoor methods, such as family foundations or charitable partnerships, which could provide a semblance of financial support without formally reinstating her royal status. However, these are merely conjectures and would likely face intense scrutiny from the public and media alike. You decide, is there any chance that Meghan might find a way to reconnect with the monarchy financially? Or is this truly the end of all ties, leaving her and her family in California to fend for themselves? The royal family's move to cut Meghan Markle's final financial ties with the monarchy has sent shockwaves through the public sphere. But as always, separating fact from fiction in this complex web of royal intrigue is crucial. Reports suggest that while the headlines scream a dramatic break, many are left wondering how much truly changes in reality. For starters, critics argue that Meghan and her family have already distanced themselves significantly from their former lavish lifestyle. Sources quoted by the tabloids claim that the change in financial ties merely formalizes what was already becoming apparent. Supporters of the royal couple would say that these measures are a necessary step to ensure transparency and maintain public trust. They argue that Meghan has always been open about her desire for financial independence, which this move now fully realizes. However, skeptics point out that cutting off financial ties could have significant implications for Meghan's future career opportunities within the Commonwealth. Critics argue that this move might limit her ability to use her platform effectively in promoting causes she cares deeply about, such as mental health and equality. On the other hand, supporters of the royal family would counter that these financial changes are part of a broader strategy to streamline operations and reduce costs, which is essential for the monarchy's long-term sustainability. They argue that Meghan's departure from official royal duties has already minimized her reliance on royal finances. Ultimately, you decide, are these financial changes symbolic gestures meant to appease critics, or do they represent a substantial shift in how the monarchy operates? The debate rages on as we wait for further developments. As the news broke, the shockwaves were palpable. Reports suggest that King Charles III has cut Meghan Markle's final financial ties to the monarchy, marking a definitive and concrete end to her official status. According to royal watchers, this move was seen as a bold step to streamline the royal finances and address long-standing concerns over the Sussexes' fiscal management. Critics argue that this decision is a direct result of Meghan's public statements and actions that were perceived as disrespectful or undermining of the monarchy. Supporters, however, contend that it's merely another attempt by the palace to exert control and limit the influence of those who have already left the fold. The real meaning behind these financial cuts is now crystal clear. They represent a final act of severance, signaling an end to any lingering benefits or obligations Meghan might have had. This move has left many questioning whether it was truly necessary or if it was simply a calculated gesture to assert control over the narrative. Sources quoted by the tabloids claim that these changes were made to ensure the financial stability and integrity of the monarchy, while others suggest they are part of a broader strategy to manage public perception. You decide, is this about fiscal responsibility, or is there more at play here? As we navigate through the implications of these cuts, one thing remains certain: the relationship between the Sussexes and the British Crown has reached its final chapter. The curtain has come down on an era marked by controversy and shifting loyalties. But what reportedly happened next is where it gets worse. As we delve into this shocking turn of events, let's pose a critical question to you, our discerning viewer. How would you react if your financial support from the royal family was suddenly and unexpectedly cut off? For Meghan Markle, this is precisely what happened when King Charles III decided to sever her final ties with the monarchy. We've already seen how this decision has sent ripples through the media and public discourse. But let's take a closer look at one key figure in the ongoing debate, Tom Bower. A renowned royal analyst, Bower has been vocal about his opinions on the Sussexes' time in the spotlight. In an interview, he suggested that Meghan's public statements during her pregnancy may have contributed to this abrupt change. According to Bower, we hear, the way Meghan handled her pregnancy and media appearances might have put a strain on relations between herself and the monarchy. His comments add another layer of complexity to the situation. Critics argue that these actions could have been misinterpreted or mishandled, leading to this drastic measure by King Charles. But supporters would say that such a decision is an overreaction and that Meghan's intentions were always good. They believe that her financial ties should not be severed so abruptly without clear justification from the palace. As we continue our investigation into this unfolding saga, next up, Tom Bower's insights on why Prince Harry was banned from attending the Invictus Games. Stay with us to uncover more of the story behind these high-stakes decisions and their impact on the royal family.